recording drums on a budget. That's what we're talking about today, and I apologize ahead of time if this gets boring or weird at any point. I mean, I'm trying to just loosen up on camera a bit. It's such a weird thing to talk to the camera like this, but I'm doing my best. Anyway, so primarily I want to talk about the different types of gear that you can use to get your signal from your microphones into the computer or your laptop, iPad, whatever you're using to record your drums. In front of me I have an Alesis mixer that was $175 that has 8 inputs, and a Tascam audio interface that was $400 and that has 16 inputs. So there are some differences between these. I had a hard time figuring out exactly what the differences were between a mixer and an interface, and it's there's some gray areas in there, but we'll get into that. Anyway, before I used these, I had a very simple setup with just a Zoom recorder that has a built-in stereo microphone, and then it also has 2 microphone inputs for external mics. So I just had my kick and my snare going into each of those, along with the built-in stereo mic as a room ambient mic, and that gave me my 4 tracks. The unit itself could work as a 4-track recorder. As you can imagine, that was not a user-friendly setup. It did not make me want to record. It was always a bit of a hassle, so I didn't enjoy it much, but it worked. That was definitely on a budget. Ironically, that little Zoom recorder is actually more expensive than this Alesis mixer, so this would have been cheaper to use something like this in the beginning anyway. But anyway, that was my setup at first, and I didn't enjoy it, so when I started the channel, I definitely wanted to make sure to upgrade and get some more mics. So I went to the local music shop. I found a kit with some mics to add in my toms, and I found this mixer, which was in my price range, and it looked great, and it is a great unit for what it does. I have been very happy with it, and I was able to get some good recordings. The problem with it was that I was naively expecting that I was going to be able to separate all of my tracks in my recording software, so I would have a track for kick drum, one for snare, rack tom, and so on. And that was not the case. I was very disappointed to get it all hooked up and find that I only had 2 tracks coming into the computer. That is, I could set it up as 2 mono tracks or 1 stereo track. So all of the mics that I had going into this were all being mixed down to just basically a stereo track. So that didn't give me much flexibility. Again, it worked, and I was able to get some good sound from it, and if you are really trying to save some money, something like this can work well. It's just a bit more difficult to get everything set up with the levels all set up properly before you are actually recording your good takes. So it takes a bit of trial and error, some test recordings, and going back and making adjustments, and it takes a little bit longer. But in the end, you can still get a decent recording. If you're doing some simple things, if you're just recording stuff for Instagram, something that you don't need to go in and make adjustments to the audio afterward, or you don't care as much about that, this can work really well for that. So for $175, this did work pretty well for me. And if you happen to watch the first 10 or so drum covers on the channel, that was all using this mixer. And just doing my best to get the EQ and the levels and everything as close as I could before recording. And yeah, it worked all right, but it didn't give me the flexibility that I was really looking forward to. So, of course, to be able to do a lot more, I wanted to have that flexibility to add EQ and add effects and make adjustments, add some compression especially on the snare and things like that. So I definitely wanted to figure out what I needed to do, what gear I needed to get in order to make that happen. And I had a hard time actually finding a clear answer to that question. What gear was I going to need specifically to be able to separate those tracks? And that's just because mixers and interfaces have a bit of overlap. It's not that a mixer won't allow you to do that and an audio interface will, because there are mixers that do have multi-channel interfaces built in that will allow you to do that, but of course those are higher end, they're more expensive. I didn't really need anything like that, so that's why I saved up some more money and eventually got the Tascam audio interface. And really, that's why you see so many drummers out there using the interface, because it's pretty much a guarantee that the number of inputs that you see on the unit itself, that's how many inputs you're going to have separate tracks in your recording software. So if you really want to be able to make those adjustments, you know, you do your recording, everything comes out great, you had an amazing take, and the snare is just a little too loud, or you want to add some compression onto it or something, this is going to allow you to do that. And the great thing about this interface, it does have built-in compression and EQ, and there's an app that you can put on your desktop to basically use that as a mixer right there on your desktop and make adjustments to all of the EQ and compression, which is then handled within the unit itself and takes a lot of that processing power off of the computer and makes things run a little bit faster, a little easier. So I've been really happy with that. It has great preamps in there. The sound is incredible. I definitely do notice a tone, sound improvement of this over the Alesis. And it's just been fantastic to actually have that flexibility now to do all the EQ and compression and everything that I want to, and I can even add more if something isn't exactly right the way I set it up on the unit. I can still do even more on each individual track in the recording software, so that is amazing. And again, I really didn't know what I was doing at the time when I picked up this mixer. I assumed that I was going to be able to get all these separate inputs. The answer was actually right there on the front of the unit all along. It has the 2 buttons for 2 tracks to monitor, 2 tracks to main. That should have told me right there that I was only going to be getting those 2 tracks, but I wasn't familiar. I didn't know, you know, I hadn't actually had hands-on experience using any kind of recording equipment like this, and so I didn't know that that's what that was going to mean. So keep an eye out for things like that. If you're trying to get gear for yourself, definitely think about how you want to use it. Something like this could be all you need if you're not really trying to get into more professional or detailed recording, if you don't want to be able to do a lot more editing with it. But that's the kind of thing that I like to do, and so I'm trying to learn as I go, and I really love the capability that I have with this interface as opposed to just using the 2-track output mixer. So hopefully that was helpful to some of you out there, and if so, please give a thumbs up, subscribe for more videos like this. I'm gonna keep trying to do stuff on camera like this and get used to it, because that's just what you gotta do. All right, take care guys, see you next time.